CUSMA is on life support. And this was confirmed by Carney's chief political advisor, Gerald Butts, over a month ago, which we reported, and nobody else has.
Welcome back to Canada's fastest growing political podcast. This week's news includes that dramatic floor crossing, but our lead story is on the trade file. We were the first to report that the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, or USMCA for short, is dead, and President Trump just confirmed it. Meanwhile, Mark Carney is doing a number of things that might indicate he might be preparing for a snap election. So be sure to stick around until the end, because we've got a lot of things to share with you that you won't get anywhere else. And also, please give us a thumbs up and share your thoughts below if you enjoy our content. And while you're here, you might as well subscribe. We're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers. Let's go behind the headlines. We begin this show with a bombshell. On Thursday, the New York Times published an article that corroborates all of our reporting from December, including the fact that Trump and his advisors were considering, quote, bilateral deals with Canada and Mexico. And more importantly, it confirmed that USMCA would be dead if Canada did not reach a deal with the United States. When asked about the future of the agreement, Trump indicated its demise by stating, quote, there's no real advantage to it, it's irrelevant, and Canada wants it, they need it. So let's set the stage for what this means for us by watching this clip from the Hub Canada.
So, Sean, what's the implication of that? If the Trump administration is going to split off Canada and Mexico, what do you think that telegraphs? What does that say?
I think the key, according to the reporting, is that the administration has grievances with Canada and with Mexico that are quite distinct from one another. And it wants to be able to maximize its asymmetrical leverage with the two countries individually in order to secure the types of concessions that the administration wants. And that will preclude Mexico and Canada from trying to work together to protect themselves, if I can put it that way.
Okay, and so you predicted this back in December. What's your reaction?
Well, yeah, and the New York Times has insiders in both sides of the border confirming that CUSMA, as they call it up here in Canada, is on life support. And this was confirmed by Carney's chief political advisor, Gerald Butts, over a month ago, which we reported, and nobody else has. Trump wants separate agreements between Mexico and then another one between the U.S. and Canada, the same as he's been negotiating with other countries around the world. And Butts said that the best that Canada can hope for was a one-year extension of the current agreement. Even that is now in peril, as the U.S. and Mexico are close to a bilateral agreement that leaves Canada out. Trump's relationship with Mexico is very solid, as is seen by the killing of a drug cartel leader in Mexico this week with U.S. assistance. Meanwhile, Carney is refusing to negotiate a separate agreement with Canada. His chief negotiator, Minister LeBlanc, was in Mexico this week and said that Canada wants Mexico to stay in the current three-way agreement so they can gang up on the U.S. Well, 2 days later, Trump said that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I think that this is Trump's final ultimatum. If we do not make a deal with the United States, Carney will have killed CUSMA and Trump would have been his accomplice. Last year, Canadian officials went to Mexico to try and do the same thing, but they were shunned. So my question is, what's changed? Well, I believe that Sheinbaum and Trump have a deal. Mexico will negotiate in private, and Trump will allow for the Mexican president to act tough in public. Carney used Trump during the last election to get elected. Trump was okay with that because the working assumption was that after the election, they would negotiate in good faith. Well, Trump will let that happen a second time. But before we move on, Trump lost in the Supreme Court this week. It's a bad week for him. Ian, does this alter the bleak outlook for USMCA?
Absolutely. He didn't lose much in the Supreme Court decision. He still has the power to impose other duties, which he's already started to do. He announced a 15% duty across the board. Now in Canada, that doesn't affect us because we still have this CUSMA trade agreement, which protects 85% of our exports to the States. However, the 50% tariff on Canadian steel aluminum continues, and that's confirmed by Unifor, Canada's largest private sector union. You know, if Trump kills USMCA or CUSMA on July 1st, he can issue separate tariffs or duties on as many Canadian products as he wants. And the first will be Quebec dairy products. That will kill Carney's support in Quebec.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's the last concession that we haven't made to the United States. We agree that these are two different issues and that nothing has changed. And you know, it wasn't all bad for Trump this week. He got something out of Canada and we got nothing in return. On Sunday, it was reported by the Wall Street Journal, quote, Canada certifies Gulfstream jets following Trump's threat. And this seems to be a pattern because the media dismisses a threat from Trump and then Canada quietly concedes. We did it on the border, we did it on the military, and so much more. And look, I'm not here to be a cheerleader for Trump. And I don't mean to get into weeds here, but I want Canadians to understand how this works because the media won't report it. Before Trump took office, two organizations, America First Policy Institute and the Heritage Foundation, helped the Trump campaign create this tariff policy.
Exactly.
On your screen, here's a screenshot from one of the organizations laying out a lot of that policy even before Trump took office. And, you know, there are alternatives, including an embargo. And proof of that is the tariffs that Ian just mentioned. You know, I predicted this in an email to Ian on October 30th, 2025. But long story short, Canadians should be prepared for more. I love my country, I want the tariffs gone, and I want to see our country thrive. Because after all, it is Canada first. Ian, do you have anything else to add to that?
No, that pretty much sums it up.
Perfect. Well, in the meantime, Mark Carney has travel plans across the country, and as we learned today, even the world. It's evident that the Carney Liberals intend to never sign a trade deal with the United States because they need this fight to win a majority by hook or by crook. Ian and I have gathered the latest indicators that we could be heading for a snap election. But first, watch this from Vancouver. And, you know, tell me that it doesn't scream campaign preparation.
You know, it was a year ago last week. I was during the leadership campaign at that time. I went to UBC's Smart Structures Lab to look at the various ways that prefabricated factory housing, modular housing could be accelerated, some of the best research there. We also went and visited a site, the Riverbend residences, to see this in action. And that and the conversations that Gregor and I had with other members of our team rolled into the strategy of Build Canada Homes. That was our promise, is that we would move towards building affordable housing at rates that we haven't really seen in this country since, candidly, the end of the Second World War.
Yeah, I got to laugh there because not only is he not wearing a hard hat, which I would get fined for on my job site, but, you know, let's just get right to it. Ian, tell our viewers what signs suggest we might have an early election.
Well, first I want to say that he's trotting out the phony promise from a year ago of building more housing. And his minister recently said that they're going to build 7,000 houses, not 250,000 or 500,000 this coming year. And you're right about the job site, because I've been on a job site with politicians, and if you're really on a job site, you have to wear a hard hat. He's not even on a job site. He's in front of a job site, pretending to be on. Anyway, you know, Carney is crossing the country on a pre-election tour that most prime ministers do when an election is in the wind. What they do is they make one stop on government business, then they're allowed to charge the flight and all the other expenses to the taxpayer. This month, he made stops in Halifax, Montreal, Toronto, Edmonton, and Vancouver. And in Montreal, he visited two suburbs where the Liberal candidates are in trouble because of the MOU he signed with Alberta for a future oil pipeline. And then he watched the Canada-U.S. hockey game in another Quebec riding that's under threat. In Vancouver, it was 3 ridings that don't want the Alberta pipeline that he visited, trying to prop up the Liberal candidates there. Carney has spent most of his time in the first year traveling around the world looking for phony trade deals. This Canadian travel, therefore, is very noticeable. An election is being planned, likely for this spring.
Yeah, can't agree with you there. And if the polls are accurate, why wouldn't he want to call an election? According to 338 Canada, I mean, the Liberals are leading. And if he's truly leading by 10 to 15 points, as they say, he should be running, not walking to the Governor General to call an election. The point is that all signs point to a snap election in the spring. And could it change? Maybe, but we just want to remind everyone that we were the first to let you know that Election Canada has started hiring important election workers. They're printing a lot of stuff that they need for the infrastructure. And, we've confirmed this week that parties are opening up nominations. But anyways, do you have anything else to add to Ian?
Well, the main driver of a spring election is if Carney and his people believe that Trump is going to kill the USMCA, or CUSMA as it's called in Canada, the trade deal. And there's no way he could win an election if he goes after July 1st, because that was his one big promise a year ago when he won his first election.
Now, on to the most dramatic event of this week. MP Matt Jeneroux, who promised to resign for family reasons just months ago, just crossed the floor to the Liberals instead. And now Liberals might be popping champagne over snagging another seat. But hold up, they shouldn't celebrate just yet. I'll reveal why in this segment. But let's watch this compilation of clips of Mark Carney, Matt Jeneroux, and the stunning rebuke from his voters. This isn't just a defection, it's a betrayal, and they are not holding back.
How are you, Matt? Thanks for coming.
The Prime Minister embraces his newest Liberal MP during a brief stop at the Edmonton International Airport. Matt Jeneroux of Edmonton Riverbend crossing the floor after 10 years as a Conservative.
Great day for Edmonton, great day for Alberta and for Canada. And thank you very much for coming and joining the team.
Neither Jeneroux nor Mark Carney took questions from reporters. Their staff say both flew out of the Alberta capital immediately after the meeting. But Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre said Jeneroux has betrayed his voters through dirty backroom deals to create a Liberal majority. Some in Jeneroux's riding agree.
It's terrible. He hijacked our votes. I just find it sick. I hate it. It makes me so mad. It makes me just lose a faith in our system. It's corrupt.
In Jeneroux's riding, voters are weighing into.
I've worked for him the last 3 or 4 elections, and he was very much a conservative. And
not anymore.
Yes, I'm very disappointed, and I'm surprised.
Okay, Ian, so what do you make of this?
Pierre had another very bad week. There's no question. A while back, he said the previous floor crosser was the last one. And now this guy who said he was retiring is not retiring.
Yeah, I agree. It was a bad week for Poilievre. There's no doubt about it, even as a supporter of Pierre Poilievre. But that's because the Liberal propaganda machine is carrying out a psyop on the Canadian people. And if this keeps happening, faith in our Confederation will irreversibly erode. Sean Fraser said before the last election that he was resigning to spend time with his family. Well, after Carney looked like he could win, he decided he had enough time with his family. It's shameful. Mark Carney is repeating the same mistakes of the Trudeau government by using anti-democratic techniques to get what he wants. Voters elected these traitors because they hated the Liberals. You saw the clips. This isn't my words. And as a result, the Alberta independence movement will keep on growing. These separatists are just going to get stronger. I don't want Alberta to leave this great country. I want our country to stay together. But I could certainly understand their anger after years and years of being alienated by the Laurentian elite. Instead of ridiculing our fellow Canadians, did we ever stop to ask what we can do to make their lives better? No, but as usual, the Liberals will act surprised when pouring gasoline on the fire makes the fire bigger. Do you have anything else to add to that, Ian?
Yeah, this is a conservative seat, and Mr. Jeneroux is going to have trouble holding on to it in the next election. And as we saw, his constituents are very unhappy. After he said he was quitting Parliament for family reasons, well, his wife moved to Victoria recently for her new job, and he's been flying back and forth for family reasons ever since. In fact, the reporter showed that he hasn't been in his riding doing anything for several months. So, what's he going to do now? Is he going to run in Victoria? Is he no longer retiring from politics altogether after he loses? What is the truth?
Yeah, these are the questions that I wish we had answers to, but he quickly locked down his social media to avoid accountability. But just to piggyback off of what you were saying, every election since 2015, when this riding was created, a conservative held that seat. One single person. And that just happened to be Matt Jeneroux. And in every election since the last one, he had won with over 19 points or more. And I'm predicting that the Conservatives will win this seat whenever the election is called. The question is, will Matt Jeneroux be running for the Liberals? Only time will tell. Ian, do you have anything else to add to that?
That's it.
All right. Well, that's it.
The last thing I'd say is, what has he been offered by Carney?
We don't know. These are the questions. These are the questions that we all have that we would like to know. And hopefully Matt Jeneroux will tell us, or who knows, maybe it'll get leaked to one of the left-wing media outlets, but I won't hold my breath on that one. But anyways, everybody, thank you so much for sticking around to the end. Such a big episode, so much to say. And we're so thankful for all of the support that you've been giving us. So without further ado, we'll see you